How you doing? This is Jim Fisher on the third way, not left, not right, but America's third way, libertarianism. Today I wanted to talk about drugs and drug laws and libertarian philosophy with drug laws. You know, when you see Ron Paul get interviewed on TV, one of the first things that's usually asked is, how can you support heroin legalization? You know, what about the poor kid whose mom's strung out heroin and hasn't fed him in 3 days, and yada, yada, yada. And it sounds like Ron Paul's making an irrational argument until you actually hear him make his argument. Hopefully I'm going to try to do that for you now. First off, criminalizing drugs does not impact drug use at all. That's kind of the first point. Are we winning the war on drugs? Have we changed the actual amount of drug use that happens and the amount of people that try drugs or use drugs? We have, and I think the answer to that's clear. We fought the drug war for 30, 40 years now. We cannot impact something where there is a demand that's so great and so strong. So all we do is create a ton of crime that goes with that demand. When you have high demand like that for an industry and you criminalize it, and the demand doesn't go away, you end up putting it on the black market, and the people that work in that industry now work out of the confines of the law. They're now working in the black market, and thus you create gangs, you create violence, you create mafia. In the 30s, we tried an experiment called prohibition. We tried this experiment. It failed miserably. It failed because the amount of crime it created, because it created Al Capone, because it created mafia. That's why it failed. And so many people use alcohol, and there was so much demand that the amount of violence that was created from this was in everybody's face. The American people could see it, and it affected each and every one of them. So the American people demanded that it was repealed. The politicians acted, and thus we adjusted our Constitution accordingly and repealed prohibition. We haven't done this with regular drugs because regular drugs aren't used on the same scale as alcohol. But I want you to really try this thought experiment. If you support legalization of alcohol, and you don't support the legalization of heroin or the hardest drugs you can imagine, why are you not a hypocrite? What is special or different about the drug of alcohol that makes it different from cocaine or heroin? It doesn't ruin families? No, that's not true. You can't overdose on it? No, that's not true. It's not bad for you? No, that's not true. The only difference between alcohol and other drugs is it's more socially acceptable, and because it's more widely used. It is a drug. It is just the dangers, the dangers of alcohol are just as much as any other drug. In fact, probably a lot more. People can actually probably drive on heroin and cocaine better than they can on alcohol. So it's not about people driving under the influence, because alcohol is way more dangerous than other drugs in that aspect. So if you think alcohol should be legal for people over 21, but other drugs shouldn't, what is your rationale? Why are you not a hypocrite? I mean, ask yourself that question. What makes alcohol special? What is it about alcohol that, other than it's more socially acceptable, that differentiates it from other drugs? And that's the only answer that you will rationally be able to come up with, is that it is more socially acceptable. If there's a different answer, I'd like to hear it, because every time I've made this argument with somebody, I've never gotten a good answer. So that's really the main point. The other point is, it is not government's role to criminalize something that's not a crime. The definition of a crime is when a person hurts another person. If a person does something that doesn't hurt another person, it's not a crime. And just calling it a crime doesn't make it immoral. It's not immoral to use drugs. It's not immoral for somebody to put something of their choice in their body. It may be stupid, it may be wrong, but it's not immoral. It's not a crime. And therefore, the government has no business criminalizing it. It's not up to the government what people put in their bodies. It's not up to the government to tell me I need to wear the seatbelt. I have the right to put myself in danger. It may be stupid, but that doesn't mean I don't have the right to do that. We have to rethink what we think government's role is. Is it government's role to protect us from ourselves because we're so stupid we can't manage ourselves with our own personal responsibility? Is that really what we're looking for from the government? I listened to Ron Paul at the last debate when he was asked about legalizing heroin. Of course, that's the first question everybody tries to ask him to make him look like a kook. And he said to the audience, do you guys all need heroin to be illegal so that you won't use it? And he got a lot of laughter. I mean, but think about that question. Do you need drugs to be illegal so that you won't use them? Are you being protected? Or are you just thinking, no, I need them to be illegal so that other people won't use them? And if that's your thought process, why? Why is that your thought process? Why do you not want other people to use drugs? Because you want to control what other people do that really doesn't impact you, that can't hurt you? The part that hurts you is the fact that it's illegal and all the crime that creates. All the mafia, all the gangs, all of that, all the crime down on the Mexican border would disappear. I want you to imagine a place where somebody that's 21 years of age could go to their local CVS and buy heroin. And that might sound ridiculous, but that would literally eliminate overdoses. People could get it for next to nothing, so that people wouldn't be stealing to get their drugs because it would become so cheap that anybody could afford it. The guy working at the local McDonald's could afford his heroin if he so wanted. And eventually, the demand would fall off. The fact that it's criminalized entices a lot of our school-age children to use it, just like alcohol did for most of us when we were younger. I mean, think of a country like France where kids drink red wine at dinner or whatever. They would think it's ridiculous to go to some of the parties that we used to go to when we were kids, where people get a big kick out of drinking. We did it because it was illegal. That actually creates some of the demand. Not all of it, but it creates some of it. So, do the thought experiment. Ask yourself what's different between alcohol and other drugs. I mean, rationally, what's different? Every single country has tried to fight this drug war. They've all failed miserably. There is no new magic tactic to try. It's all been tried. It cannot be done. There's a supply, there will be a demand, and it's whether or not we want to have that supply and demand fall within the confines of the law and the free market, or live as it does on the black market. In 2000, Portugal decriminalized drugs. They did it out of necessity. They did not have the money to fight the drug war anymore. They were spending too much money, just like we are, fighting the drug war. Since then, from 2000 to 2006, they've dropped in annual street overdoses from 400 to 290 per year. They've dropped in HIV drug-related new cases from over 2,000 to less than 1,400 per year. All their stats have dropped. Everything that you would think, and even the drug use stats have dropped. Maybe that's because it's not criminalized now, and we're not putting non-criminals in jail in Portugal. Whatever the reason, it's irrelevant. People are not affected by other people's poor judgment when it's not a crime, when you don't create a black market to go with it. It doesn't impact you. The reason why people's drug use impacts our lives and makes it more dangerous is because it's criminalized. It's because it is a black market activity. So, Jim Fisher signing off for now for the Third Way. Not left, not right. America's Third Way, Libertarianism.